In this video, I'm going to talk about things that I do to kind of put the boat in storage and for many months. So I've been storing my boat in Ecuador, Marquesas, Tahiti, Tonga, New Caledonia, and most recently in Darwin. And, you know, there have been times where I've had to replace a lot of stuff. I think the worst was like in Tahiti, where the alternator just like totally got seized because of excess humidity. Since then, I've been trying to pay minder services, although I didn't have one in New Caledonia because they couldn't figure it out what I was asking. But I think a monthly minder service is a good idea. It'd be good if you don't. One of the obvious things that can run down your batteries is if the bilge pump float switch goes in the up position. So if you can have somebody just manually run the bilge pump once a month, that would be great. Now, during COVID with New Caledonia, without the minder service, we had like an inch of water in the boat. But otherwise, it generally did okay. But that kind of ruined our teak and holly floors. Pretty hot here, been sweating all day. What I would do, number one, I would like fill up the diesel tank totally full and then put it biocide in the diesel tank, right? So you don't want to have bad diesel when you come back. You don't want to get water in the fuel tank. Probably if you don't, I don't think you'll probably get much condensation in the hose lines that go to the tank, but definitely in the aluminum or steel tank that you have, maybe fiberglass too, you'll get condensation. If you got any leftover room there and you don't want any water in your diesel, I've never really had a water and diesel problem. But as a precaution, I threw out all the diesel after COVID, and it had been set for 2 years. But I think another big thing is empty the water tank. Some people may say have it full. Maybe if you can put a lot of chlorine in the water there. I have a aluminum tank. And so because of the aluminum tank, chlorine's going to create a lot of aluminum crystals. So you don't want those crystals to build up in the tank. So the better solution is just empty it. And then I put like a cup of vinegar at the very end to kind of discourage bacteria growth if there's any like little bit of water in there and that it's not fully evaporated. I also remove the filter and completely unattach the filter, so I have a filter the water at the sink. I remove that filter, and so there's also a place for the line to kind of air out and some stuff to evaporate through. So it's not a completely sealed system. That means that you have to reattach the filter when you come back, and you have to fill water when you come back. The other, I think, essential thing, you can see in this yard they're not really doing it very much, but I think it's taking off all the canvas. Now you will see that the dinghy has a cover on it. You should cover if you have a PVC or even Hypalon dinghy is probably worth it. I think another good thing is your jerry cans. If you can put those jerry cans out of the sun, that's good too. So I saw a lot of jerry cans in the Bahamas that were like really had a lot of sun damage. So if you can get rid of the sun, put those underneath putting the jerry cans underneath the dinghies. And if you have a chain them up. Sometimes it's hard to replace your jerry cans. Seems like a stupid thing, but my jerry cans kind of flew around the yard in Nemea, which did have some cyclones while I was gone. But they also had like hurricane blocks. It would be nice if we had hurricane blocks here. They don't have that. I thought about asking it, but we're in Lombok, Indonesia, and they are outside of the cyclone belt. No hurricanes, no cyclones, no tropical storms. I looked at like a 50-year tracks, and I didn't see any tracks come here. So that's why people are pretty lax about what they're doing with their sails and stuff, but it's best practice, just one, one windstorm. It doesn't have to be a named windstorm or like a tropical storm, can really screw up your Genoa, and that's a big job that is probably out of the reach of most even cruisers, that they would like to avoid that, trying to pull a Genoa off the roller furler. Not only do you have to replace the Genoa, but maybe the roller furler needs to come down and everything. So it's just something that best practice, take off your Genoa, if nothing else. I would say if you do not have in-mast furling, you definitely want to take off your mainsail. The sail shape is a lot better if you take off the sail too. So so that's one thing I always do. And of course you want to take off your bimini. Now, like I say, there's people here that have like these whole tents over their boats. It's because they can kind of get away with it because it's kind of light wind area. There's not tropical storms here, but most of the places you're going to store your boat is going to have some tropical storm, tornado risk, thunderstorm risk. All those events could cause not only your canvas to rip, but also that it could tip your boat over. But so here, some people are not following best practice. What are the other things? I would say get all the food off the boat, unless you're just leaving just for a few months. But if you're leaving for several months, like 6 months or more, probably getting all the food off, even the canned food. I found that the canned food rotted in the Marquesas. It was really gross, and there was like flies and maggots. It was just so the cans can go bad too in humid environments. The other thing to cut down on humidity, having that monthly service, they open up the boat so the humidity in the boat somewhat gets closer to the humidity outside. That's another good thing to have, a monthly service if you do that. Or some people will like have a dehumidifier, but then if you have a dehumidifier, then you have to have electricity to make sure the electricity's running, etc. What I do is more simpler. I just think that electrical outages are so easy to have. Like if you have a lot of rain or something, or somebody just like pulls the cord one way, and then you're not charging anymore and you're relying on that. So there's actually chemical bags you can buy that suck the moisture out of the air. And so you can hang those up. I think that helps somewhat to dehumidify the place, but I don't know how fast they fill up. They might fill up relatively fast with water. But it's something. It's similar to like those dry bags you get in electronic devices, and those are really inexpensive. And so that's one thing you can take with you every season, and then open up those bags at the end of the season right before you close up the boat. What else? Yeah, so I think that, why don't you give me your suggestions, what you think are important. But you want to make sure you unplug everything. So turn everything off. If you have battery switches, don't have anything in the 12-volt outlets. Make sure those 12-volt outlets are empty. So there is no battery draw from that. So that's important. You don't want to have any battery draw. And then if somebody's running the manual bilge pump, hopefully they won't need to plug in your battery charger. And if you do that, if you do have a service, you make sure it's easy for them to plug it in, that you've got it all set up for them just to plug it into the outlet, and the batteries will start charging. All right, let me know what your tips are for long-term storage of a boat on the hard. Subscribe to Slow Boat Sailing. We give you the stories of the most interesting sailors in the world and our round-the-world adventure. There was one big thing that I really forgot, is if you've got outboard motors, you want to drain all gas from them, and then you want to drain their carburetors, right? So drain those totally free of gas. You don't want gas to pool up. Same thing if you have gas generators. I think most of you won't have them, but I do. You want to have those completely empty of gasoline, and you want to have the carburetors completely empty and dry.